Puraka Swami Niti Namine Namacharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayine Gaura Katha Thamadaya Nagara Grama Tarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We again welcome our YouTube live listeners, our listeners over Facebook Live, and our listeners over Zoom. Thank you very much for joining us on this day 5 of Sri Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham Parikrama. May we have the slideshows, please? The slides, please.
So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Krishna himself, he entered into Jagannath Puri. And he saw, next slide please. He saw Lord Jagannath, and in the mood of a devotee of Sri Radharani, when he saw Jagannath Dev, Sri Krishna, he felt to run towards him, and he fell at the feet, lotus feet of Lord Jagannath, unconscious. He was in such an ecstatic love that all the symptoms of his life were unmanifested. And some people thought, perhaps he's dead. And other priests, they were thinking, perhaps he's just a pretender, because there are so many pretenders. And they didn't know what to do. Some were thinking of maybe beating him. Some were thinking of picking him up and taking him out of the temple. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, next slide. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was very wise. He understood this person is in ecstasy. He's very special. So he ordered the guards of the temple, bring him to my home. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was the leader, was the guru of everyone in Jagannath Puri. He was the greatest Mayavadi. But seeing Lord Chaitanya, his heart melted.
And can we have the next slide, please? And as Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was the one of the head pujaris also at Jagannath Mandir. It is said that from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's home in Jagannath Puri to the main temple, from the Garbha Mandir, which is the main, the main room of Lord Jagannath, there is this underground tunnel, so which links Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's home to Jagannath Mandir, so that the head pujari would, because they would travel on the road, they would probably, trample upon so many things. So therefore, to keep himself very pure, the king of Odisha had actually built this underground tunnel connecting Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's home and the Jagannath Mandir. So it is said that the devotees, they carried Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that unconscious state through this tunnel, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brought Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu through this tunnel and brought him to his home at Sri Jagannath Puri.
Next slide, please. So then he tried to test him, but he couldn't find any heartbeat, pulse, nothing. Then he placed some very fine cotton fibers close to his nose. If he's breathing, then the cotton fibers would move just to see if there's a slight movement, to see if he's alive. But then he was thinking how to bring him back to consciousness. This person is clearly in ecstasy. How to bring him back to consciousness? Now in the Vedas, there are many different remedies that are given, how to bring a person in such a state of spiritual consciousness back to external awareness. And he tried all of them, but nothing worked, nothing happened. So he was very worried and concerned. In the meantime, Lord Nityananda, Mukunda Datta, Jagadananda Pandit, Damodar Pandit, they arrived at the Singadwar, Lion's Gate entrance to the temple. Because they had started with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with Lord Nityananda, Jagadananda Pandit, Mukunda Datta, Damodar Pandit, everyone had come to Puri. But Lord Gauranga got into such an ecstasy, so much eagerness, that he started running towards Jagannath temple, and all these other associates, they were left behind. Now they also caught up, and they came at the Simhadwara of Jagannath Puri temple. And they heard from other visitors that Mahaprabhu had been removed and taken to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. So at the same time, Gopinath Acharya, who is the brother-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was passing by. So Gopinath Acharya was also from Navadvip. And so Lord's devotees recognized him. Hey, Gopinath Acharya, what are you doing here? And Mukunda told them, and he asked, what are you all doing here in Jagannath Puri? So Mukunda told him everything. We are coming with Mahaprabhu. And you know what? Mahaprabhu took sannyas. After that, he was requested by his mother, Sachi Devi, to stay at Jagannath Puri. So we have all come with him to Jagannath Puri, but he came to the temple. I don't know. We don't know where he is. We have heard he has been taken to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Gopinath Acharya said, I'm his brother-in-law. So Gopinath Acharya was kind of thrilled to hear this news. Mahaprabhu is here and he's in my brother-in-law's, I'm his brother-in-law in whose house he is. So Gopinath Acharya took Nityananda Prabhu, Jagadananda Pandit, Mukunda Datta, Damodar Pandit, all of them to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. When they came, they saw the condition of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And they understood there is only one way to bring him back to external awareness. They started having a tumultuous kirtan, big, huge kirtan. Nityananda Prabhu was dancing. All of the devotees just began dancing in transcendental happiness. Very, very loudly, they started calling out Krishna's holy names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And with this kirtan saying, there is no other way to awaken the Lord except the loud chanting of His holy names, not just whispers of the holy name, but loud chanting of the holy names. Previously, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he had tried all different Vedic rules to bring back the person back to consciousness, but he could not do so. Similarly, it is said in this age of Kali, there is no other way to awaken the original God consciousness that we had except by loud chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So as they were loudly chanting the holy names to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's great amazement, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he was almost like he was dead in coma. Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu immediately leapt up in the air and he started dancing in ecstasy. And all the devotees, when they witnessed this, they were even more happy and blissful in chanting the Harinam. And they all started chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai. as they were loudly chanting these holy names, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, then he was just so much struck with wonder. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then received all the members of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu's party. Next slide, please, including Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and asked them to become his guests of honor. Would you become the guest of my guest of honor? And then the entire party, including Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu, next slide please, went for a bath in the sea. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya arranged for their residence and for their meals at the house of Kashi Mishra, who was the Rajguru. He was the royal priest of King Prataparudra. Gopinath Acharya, his brother-in-law, also assisted. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had great affection for Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu. He was just very young, but he had a fatherly type of love because he was even older than Lord Chaitanya's father. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya came. He was also originally from Navadvip Dham. Remember Vidyanagar? When we went for the Navadvip Mandal Parikrama, in Vidyanagar, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was there. And he was secretly told by Gauranga Mahaprabhu, you go to Jagannath Puri and I will see you there. Even though Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a Mayavadi, internally he was a great devotee. Then Nilambar Chakravarti in this is the same place of Vidyanagar. They both happened to be the classmate of the father of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, which means that uh, Nilambar Chakravarti and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, father of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, both of them were classmates, which means Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was like the age of the father and mother of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. In that sense, Lord Chaitanya, he evoked like Vatsalya ras, paternal affection from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. In fact, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was one of the greatest of all the scholars of Vedic literatures. In Vidyanagar, when he left, it was told in Navadvip Dham Mahatmya that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is the incarnation of Brihaspati, the guru of the Devatas. Although Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a Grihastha, he was living a very pious, respectable life. He committed no immoral activities. Even in thought, he would not commit immoral activities. He was so pure, a perfect Brahmana. He was always truthful, he was clean, he was completely honest, totally self-controlled. He had studied the Vedas so much, exhaustive study of the Vedas. In fact, he could explain the purport of the Vedas in such a way that even great renunciants and sannyasis and pandits from all over India, they were coming to study Vedanta from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. This is a huge thing. This is like he was the best Harvard law professor. Whoever is the best Harvard law professor, that reputation was what Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had in those days. Navadvip Dham, Jagannath Puri, they were the places of learning, great places of learning. But he came from the school of the Mayavadis, of Sripad Shankaracharya. And therefore, his explanation of the Vedas and the Vedanta, the essence of Vedas, was with the aim of trying to realize the supreme Brahman as the infinite, all-pervading impersonal absolute truth, and has a non-differentiated existence within that Brahman. So he was very older, senior person. He was experienced in this world. He told Gauranga Mahaprabhu, you are only 24 years old and you have taken sannyas. You are so beautiful. Gaura Sundar. You have such a beautiful golden complexion, lotus-like eyes, long limbs that reach beyond your knees, your nose, your mouth, every limb, every part of your body is the very personification of the highest beauty. How will you be able to maintain your sannyas? I'm worried about you. Even great elderly sannyasis find it difficult. How could you? So then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told the Lord that if you want to maintain your sannyas vows, there's only one way. You have to study Vedanta very diligently, and by the power of that philosophy, you would be able to maintain your sannyas. This will awaken that required attitude of renunciation that is required for a sannyasi. So the Lord said, okay, I will learn it from you. You gave me an invitation. Sure, I will learn. Next slide, please. So the Lord accepted his invitation. You can see on the left-hand side, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is teaching from the Vedanta. And on the right-hand side, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu is sitting on the edge, hearing Vedanta. He said, look, the study of Vedanta is very demanding. A student, if you want to wish to understand this material properly, you are required, obliged, you should ask questions to clarify difficult areas. So be very careful. The Lord answered, well, you asked me to listen, not to ask questions, because 7 days had gone, 7 nights had passed, and Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu was just sitting. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was going on speaking. And so he said, why is this person not asking any questions? So that's why he told him that if you want to understand, you should ask questions. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, my dear Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya ji, you asked me to just listen. You didn't ask me to ask questions. Actually, I'm finding no difficulty in understanding the meaning of these sutras. They are self-evident to me like the sun. But your explanations are like the clouds, which are hiding the clear meaning of the sutras. Next slide, please. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya felt slighted by the Lord's comments, and he indeed felt angry.
As can be seen in the picture
here. Gauranga Mahaprabhu is telling your interpretations are wrong, Sarvabhauma. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is like, what do you mean? And so he started to debate the meaning of the word Brahman with the Lord. And Sarvabhauma established that Brahman was without form or qualities. It has no recourse to various scriptures and the references. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cited the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Atmaram verse, the famous Atmaram verse. Atmaramascha munayo nirgrantha apyurukrame kurvanti ahaitu kim bhaktim itham bhuta gunohari. Even those silent sages who are fully self-satisfied and freed from all bondages perform causeless devotional service to Lord Hari, whose pastimes are wonderful, for such is the glorious nature of his qualities. And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had given 9 different explanations of this verse. But Mahaprabhu, he displayed his superhuman scholarship by explaining the same verse in double the amount, 18 ways, without even touching on the meanings that were given by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He explained the Atmarama verse in 18 more ways. And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was like, I am the guru of all these Mayavadis. 9 ways is the highest number of ways I've ever heard. I've never heard these 18 ways of explanation, additional. He was speechless. He was astounded. What? Slowly he began to understand. Mahaprabhu is not an ordinary being. Could it be that he is the Supreme Lord himself? So he started to regret his arrogance. And finally he fell down at the Lord's lotus feet and begged him for forgiveness. Next slide, please. Then next morning, Lord Chaitanya came to bring Jagannath Prasad for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he took that prasad with great enthusiasm.
But while taking the prasad, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said to Mahaprabhu that, Mahaprabhu, I have not even finished, because it was early in the morning that Mahaprabhu had gone to see Lord Jagannath, and on his way he brought some Mahaprasad back for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said that, Mahaprabhu, I have not even finished my daily rituals that I always do. Mahaprabhu explained to him that whatever punya karma, whatever pious activities, pious rituals, everything that you are doing, my dear Sarvabhauma, offer them all to me and accept this prasad. So at that very moment, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he actually surrendered himself to Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu and accepted the Mahaprasad from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, from Mahaprabhu. And that was the turning point in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's life. This moment was the turning point where he surrendered. He, in fact, before he was having the doubt that could this be Sri Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at this moment, when Mahaprabhu said that, you give me everything, you offer everything to me, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya accepted the Mahaprasad and he just surrendered completely to Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And then the next slide, please. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being pleased with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he revealed his Shadbhuj Mahaprabhu form to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. That he had Shadabhuja, means 6 arms. 6 arms means 2 arms of Lord Ramachandra, then 2 arms of Krishna, 2 arms of Lord Ramachandra holding the bow and the arrow, 2 arms of Krishna holding the flute, and 2 arms of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, one holding the bead and the other holding the kamandalu, the sannyas kamandalu. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was revealed this form out of Mahaprabhu's ultimate compassion. Next slide, please. So this is how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was revealed, the Shadbhuj Mahaprabhu form, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya completely surrendered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then, can we have the next slide, please? We can see here that Sarvabhauma, this is the actual place in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house where Gauranga Mahaprabhu revealed his 6-handed form to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. This is in the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in Jagannath Puri. We can go there, we can see this form even today. It is engraved in the wall. It's almost like a projection coming off of the wall. Very, very beautiful, wonderful place is this home of Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, where Mahaprabhu stayed and they had this wonderful debate. And then finally Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he surrendered to Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Next slide, please. So this is the home of Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And if you see that door, going all of you can see that little door. So when we were there in 2012, we had actually got the privilege. The Pujari was very, very kind upon us, but he told us no cameras, and he took us to the room where Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu stayed. It was the room of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. You have to climb a very narrow flight of stairs, very narrow flight of stairs. And the Pujari took us upstairs through this door. He took us upstairs to the room of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya where Lord Chaitanya stayed. And there he showed us something very precious.
He actually showed us the scriptures that were from in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house on palm leaves. It was very carefully they were kept, and there was like a bunch of scriptures, and it was written in Bangla and some in Sanskrit. Some were written by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's notes and Tippani on Vedanta Sutra. And that was so wonderful and enchanting to behold those scriptures on the palm leaves.
So this is a very, very wonderful sight that we were revealed by the mercy of the pujaris there. They were very kind upon us and they allowed us to go upstairs and witness this most wonderful, intimate Leela of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was then, can we have the next slide, please? He became so enamored by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like you can see here, that's the same door. And this is the same place where Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu revealed the Shadbhuj Mahaprabhu form to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Next slide, please. Now, the other slides, we can see that these are different renditions of the same scene of Mahaprabhu revealing the Shadbhuj form to Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Explaining to him that he is non-different than Krishna and non-different than Ram is Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu himself. In here, Gauranga Mahaprabhu is in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Krishna is present, Rama is present. This Shadbhuj Mahaprabhu is the entire import of the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare is Srimati Radharani, which is present as Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Krishna is Krishna who is present with two other arms, and Rama is with two other arms. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is a prayer to Shadbhuj Mahaprabhu.
So Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became so enraptured. He was so much involved in, Mahaprabhu Sankirtan movement. And he became such a pure devotee of the Lord that he even changed one of the most important verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Tatenukampam
Susumekshamano
Bhunjanaivatmakritam vipakam Ritvakvapurvir vidadhan namaste Jiveti yo mukti pade sadayatha. This verse says, what is the qualification of a person who achieves the perfection of liberation? Spoken by Lord Brahma in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. One who is suffering this most terrible crisis and reversals and pains of this world, he stands before the Lord in that condition with folded arms, palms, and a grateful heart and says, thank you, my Lord. One who is suffering the most terrible crisis, reversals, pains, if he can stand before the Lord and say, thank you, I deserve worse, but by your kindness, I'm thinking, you are allowing me to take shelter of you in this condition. It is your mercy. If you can just do that, if we can just do that, liberation is our rightful claim. I'll say that again. He says, thank you. I deserve worse, but by your kindness, you are allowing me to take shelter of you in this condition. In this pain, you're allowing me to take shelter. I am grateful to you. That is your mercy. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me this situation for my own purification so I can turn to you. If in these situations we can say, in good situations, we can always say thank you. It's not that difficult. But in bad, when we are going through some bad situation, to say thank you, Lord, for putting me in this situation. That person is the rightful heir to the liberation. He can place the rightful claim to liberation. But in order to come to this level of saying thank you and being grateful when we are going through miseries, we first have to start by little progress. at least be grateful and thankful and recognize, appreciate the things that Krishna is doing for us, good things that he's doing. If we continuously focus on good things that Krishna is giving us and we are being grateful for that, it'll become very easy, automatically easy to be grateful for things that Krishna is not doing, or that Krishna is putting us through some painful situations. It's like when we are trying to develop strength, we lift small weights first, and slowly, we are able to lift big weights. So similarly, let's be grateful for the good things, and then automatically we'll be grateful for, we'll be able to see the good things in the so-called bad situations and be grateful for that as well. So then next slide, please. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was thinking, this verse ends with Mukti Pade Sadai Bhag. He has the rightful claim to Mukti. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was thinking, what is this Mukti Pade? If you surrender to Supreme Lord like this, why did they say Mukti? I think Vyasadeva made a big mistake in compiling the Srimad Bhagavatam. He should have said Bhakti Pade Sadai Bhag. Why he's saying Mukti Pade Sadai? So when he, now this is a huge thing for someone who was a Mayavadi before. For Mayavadi, Mukti is the highest. Bhakti, they think Bhakti is for emotional people. They think Mukti, Jnana, these are big things. Higher than Bhakti. Bhakti is, people, sentimental things. People who are sentimental, they cannot understand Jnana. They don't have enough buddhi. So, okay, you do Bhakti, and then through Bhakti, one day you will come to Mukti. But here, this was the conception of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya before he received the mercy of Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And see how it has completely changed after he tasted the mercy and love of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. After he tasted Bhakti, he understood Bhakti is the highest. Why is it said Mukti Pade? And so he went to Lord Chaitanya. He showed him, look, it says Mukti Pade, but I have scratched Mukti and I've written Bhakti. This is the highest understanding. It is my mature realization. This is the ultimate conclusion of all knowledge by the author of all Vedantas, which is Veda Vyas himself. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, this is written by Veda Vyas. You cannot change what Veda Vyas has written. And besides, the highest kind of mukti is bhakti. So which means that what he said, Mukti Pade Sadai Bhak, is correct. He means the highest mukti, which is bhakti. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is saying, after I've tasted the sweetness of Krishna consciousness of bhakti, I hate this word, mukti. I can't just tolerate it. This idea of giving up service to Godhead to want to become God. Bhakti is serve God. Mukti is become God. The Sayujya Mukti. So I don't want to become God. This is such a bad conception. So therefore, then when Lord Chaitanya explained the perfection of Mukti is actually Bhakti, then he left it as it is. But then Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, but I'm very happy that you are having such a nice feeling in your heart. In this way, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was transformed by Shadbhuj Mahaprabhu and became one of the most loving associates of the Lord in his Leela. Next slide, please. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he wrote 2 verses on a palm leaf and sent them to Mahaprabhu through Jagannath, Jagadananda Pandit. Jagadananda Pandit took the precaution of writing the verses down on the doorway before showing them to the Lord, because Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wrote those verses. He did not want to show them directly to the Lord. And Jagadananda Pandit said, if he's not showing directly to the Lord, why should I? That means, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was the guru. He is not wanting to show directly. Why do I need to take a risk? Maybe I'll take a cautious approach. Let me just write those verses on the door of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And when he passes by, he will read it himself. Then I will see what his reaction is. And depending on that, we can at least try to save the situation if it goes bad. So then, Mahaprabhu, he took the precaution of writing the verses on the doorway before showing of the Lord. And as a result, the verses were preserved because Mahaprabhu tore the palm leaves as soon as he saw them. So it was good that Jagadananda Pandit wrote it. So the mood of Lord Chaitanya was to externally set the standard of a devotee who does not seek praise and honor, but internally, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Lord, he was excessively pleased with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Would you like to know what those two verses were that were written by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? If you want to, please raise your hands and say Haribo!
So devotees actually, because of the farsightedness of Jagadananda Pandit, they actually, because these two verses were directly glorifying Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So the devotees, when they heard that Mahaprabhu tore the palm leaves, they were wondering what was written. Jagadananda Pandit said, don't worry, I have it saved. And everyone came and they memorized these two verses which were written so wonderfully by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And we have them because of the mercy of Jagadananda Pandit. So these verses, the first one, it means
Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shiksharthameka Purusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradhari Kripam Budhiryastamaham Prapadye.
Let me take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ocean of transcendental mercy, Sri Krishna, who has descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us detachment, real knowledge, and his own devotional service.
The second verse. Kalanishtam Bhakti Yogam Nijamya Pradushkartum Krishna Chaitanya Nama Avirbhutastasya Padarvinde Gadham Gadham Niyate Chitta Bringa. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has taken the form and the name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, has appeared to reveal this ancient system of devotional service to himself, which had almost been lost due to the influence of time. I pray that the honeybee of my mind will drink deeply of the nectar of his lotus feet. Because these two verses were glorifying Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore he tore them away. In his mood of being a devotee, of setting an example of a devotee, these two verses glorifying Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu by Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya are very secret verses,
and these
revealing
verses,
the Channa avatar of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu.
And these verses are actually so beautiful, so beautiful. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Such beautiful composition. And yes, we will definitely share this in the WhatsApp groups. So all of you can have these two verses along with the translation available for all of you to even memorize this verse. It's so beautiful to just meditate on Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu while reciting these two verses. And you can see, as is in this picture, that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became such an intimate associate of the Lord that it is said that whenever, Mahaprabhu would take out his Sankirtan party in Sri Jagannath Puri Dham, at that time, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya would also join the party, and he would come and call out to everyone, please, please, come and join. Come and join in this Sankirtan party of the Lord. The Lord, Supreme Lord, has himself descended to give us this Harinam. So please, please come and chant, come and chant. Like this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya started preaching the glories of the Harinam along with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Next slide, please. And performing beautiful kirtan all around Sri Jagannath Puri.
Next slide, please. Then this is the wonderful diorama that is created in Sri Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir. This is the small Radha Madhava in Chandan.
So actually the 21 days of Chandan Yatra, which starts from Akshay Tritiya to the last day of the previous day of Nrsimha Chaturdashi, during these 21 days, small Radha Madhava take on different veshas. Veshas means different leelas they enact. So this is Chota Radha Madhava, but as you can see, there is, Madhava is dressed as Shadbhuj Mahaprabhu with 6 arms, 2 arms of his original as Madhava, and 2 extra arms as Lord Chaitanya has added, and 2 arms of Lord Ramachandra have been added. And you can see Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya there on the side, and on the far left you can see Mayapur Chandra, who is none other than Lord Chaitanya, and the scene of Puri Jagannath temple is over here. So this is Chandan Yatra of Radha Madhava, Mayapur as Madhava as Shadbhuj Mahaprabhu ki Jai. So
next slide, please. And here we see Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu in eternal love of Sri Jagannath. Here we see that the tears are flowing down from the edge of his eyes. It is said that the tears of love, tears of agony, they come from the eyes, which is near the area which is near the nose, and tears of love flow from the area which is near the ears.
Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki Jai.
So we end here today, and we will now sing some wonderful bhajan glorifying by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is the introduction of his book Sharanagati. Sharanagati means to take shelter of the Lord. And this is written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as the first song of Sharanagati. In fact, Bhakti Charu, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he popularized this song in his album Sharanagati. And this is the first song of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book Sharanagati. So as a gratitude to Srila Bhakti Charu Maharaj, we would sing this in this tune that we have heard him singing, and for his pleasure and for his blessings.
And as we saw today, the transformation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the way Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was transformed by the compassion that was taught by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we beg that just like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's heart was transformed in the same way by following the mercy of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, by receiving that mercy, we can also transform ourselves. This translation, we can end the slideshow here. And we request if our organizers could put this song in the chat box so everyone can follow also. We'll first read the translation so we know the mood in which we are singing this song.
Out of compassion for the fallen souls, Sri Krishna Chaitanya came to this world with his personal associates and divine abode to teach Sharanagati, which is the goal of surrender. Surrender to the Almighty Godhead and to freely distribute the ecstatic love of God, which is ordinarily very, very difficult to obtain. This Sharanagati, the goal of surrender, is the very life of a devotee.
The ways of Sharanagati are humility, dedication of the self, acceptance of the Lord as one's only maintainer, faith that Krishna will protect, execution of only those acts which are favorable to pure devotion, and renunciation of conduct adverse to pure devotion.
The youthful son of Nanda Maharaj, Sri Krishna, he hears the prayers of anyone who takes refuge in him by the sixfold practice of Sharanagati.
So Bhaktivinoda Thakur places a straw in between his teeth, prostrates himself before the Shad Goswamis, Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan, and clasps their lotus feet with his hands. I am certainly, by saying that I am certainly the lowest of all men. He tells them, weeping and crying, he says, please make me the best of men by teaching me the ways of Sharanagati. So this is the mood with which we will sing this song, very, very beautiful song of Sharanagati, and we will try to sing it in the same way that Srila Bhattacharya Maharaj has sung this song in a very beautiful way, but we cannot sing it in that way, but we try. This is our humble attempt to please Maharaj and to beg for blessings.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Kori Shaparshado Shriya Dhamo Shahoya Bhuturi Attanta Durlabha Prem Koribare Dham Shikhaye Sharanagam Akatero Pran Danyatma Nivedana Gotrite Vara Abhashara Khive Krishna Vishashopala Bhaktiyanu Kula Matra Karjero Shikar Bhakti Prati Kulabha Varjanangika Shadanga Sharanagati Hoibe Jana Taharo Prarthana Shri Srinanda Kumar Rupa Shana Kana Bhade Gandhi
Shikhaye Rona Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Guri Shaparshada Shiyadhama Shabaya Bhattari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Jai Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Srila Gurudev ki
Jai. Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki Jai.
His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj ki
Jai. So there's
Hare
any...
Krishna. So we can open all the lines for questions or any comments, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Can I share one comment?
Yes, please.
So I like the bhajan and I also like that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Bhattacharya Das that you said not saying, you said that just listening, and I also like the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dance inside the Jagannath Puri Dham.
Jai. Hari Bol.
Wonderful.
This is Tulasi.
Yes.
Hari Bol Tulasi. Thank you, bacha.
4-year-old Tulasi ki jai.
Jai. Thank you.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Thank you, bacha. Thank you.
Garima,
Yes, Garima.
I have one question from Bhagavatam, first canto. Parikshit Maharaj son was Janmejai, right?
Yes.
Was Janmejai a devotee or he was not?
He was a very nice devotee. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Very, very wonderful devotee. Of course, yes. In fact, now you told me today that you completed Srimad Bhagavatam first canto. Now, when you come to the 12th canto, you will get to hear about the glories of Janmejaya. That how wonderful a devotee is Janmejaya. Okay.
Okay,
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna is Kajal.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I had a question. Can you explain, you mentioned Shad Goswami. Can you just explain a little bit about them? I know a little, but not too much.
Okay, you mean Shad Goswami or Shad Bhuja Mahaprabhu? Shad Goswami.
Shad Goswami, yeah.
Okay, all right. So the Shad Goswami are the 6 Goswamis of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Their names are Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, and Srila Jiva Goswami. So these are the 6 Goswamis of Sri Vrindavan Dham. They were actually associates of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. When Krishna left Vrindavan Dham and then he met again the Vrajbasis after he came from Dwarka, then he made all the Vrajbasis go back home, back to Godhead. At that time, it's given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Krishna came back and then he also left this world. After that, because all Vrajbasis had left, Vrindavan Dham became hidden. Hidden in the sense,
no one knew where is Vrindavan, because people who lived there were only maybe the people who lived there could know, but everyone else, it was not really well known until 500 years ago, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he sent his associates, the six Goswamis, and he himself went there. And he said, this is where Radha Kunda is. This is where Shama Kunda. This is the different places of pastimes. This is where Krishna had this pastime with Radharani. This is where Krishna had that pastime with Radharani. In fact, after Krishna left, Uddhava took Arjuna. Uddhava went to Arjuna, and Parikshit Maharaj and Krishna's great grandson, both of them, they actually established certain deities in Vrindavan. So those deities are still there. But to excavate the more confidential places of Vraj-Dham, it only happened 500 years ago. Before that, no one knew so much about Vrindavan. But Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he sent his six, he went and excavated some of the places, but he also told the six Goswamis, your mission is to establish standards of deity worship. Your mission is to write the scriptures on bhakti based on my teachings, based on the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, based on the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, and to revive the lost glory of Sri Vrindavan Dham. So this is the purpose of the six Goswamis. Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami were brothers. Jiva Goswami was their nephew. They were Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami were actually in Bengal. They were the finance minister and the prime minister of the Nawab of Hussain Shah of Bengal. But they gave up all that and they just surrendered to Gauranga Mahaprabhu, asked them, and who asked them to go to Vrindavan and revive all these things. Then their nephew Jiva Goswami also joined them much later. But then Raghunath Das Goswami, who was the son of Raghunath Das Goswami from Bengal, he also joined after them, who was the son of Govardhan Majumdar. And then Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, who was the son of Tapan Mishra, who was one of the previous associates of Gauranga Mahaprabhu when he was in Bengal. At that time, he sent Tapan Mishra to Varanasi, where Raghunath Bhatta Goswami then had association of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, joined Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. And then Gopal Bhatta Goswami from South India came and he joined, who had spent some time with Gauranga Mahaprabhu during his South India trip. So this is, we can go on with glories of the six Goswamis on and on and on, and how they were so dear to Gauranga Mahaprabhu, how they had personal association of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and personal teaching from Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. But only time is limiting us. But otherwise, yes, this is the essence of who the six Goswamis were. Does that?
Yes, thank you. I think I've heard of Tattva Sandarbha, and I think that was one of their contributions, right?
Yes, Jiva Goswami. He wrote
nice.
Sandarbha. One of them is Tattva.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And also the Brajamandal Parikrama in Vrindavan that we are it's coming up for Kartik. At that time, Brajamandal Parikrama was inaugurated by Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu himself. He performed the 30-day Parikrama. And the Parikrama that we will be doing in Kartik, we will be following that same route that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken. So that inauguration we will do during Kartik this year. So please join us for the Brajmandal Parikrama also, Vrindavan's Parikrama.
Definitely.
Hare Krishna. Kirti.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru and Gauranga. I like the class about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. I have one question. So my question is, in the past yugas, Krishna and Balaram were brothers, and in
then they were Rama and Lakshmana. But in this in the Kali Yuga, they became Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. So they weren't brothers because Nityananda Prabhu was not born to Sachi Devi. So would it still be considered that Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are brothers in this yuga, or are they just very close associates?
In the eternal sense, they are brothers. But in this Leela, they are close associates, but they are sometimes our friends become more of brothers than our blood brothers. So it was like that. They were brothers, eternally they are brothers, but also they were brothers in action, meaning they took care of each other. They were always, being together. They would feel separation from each other. When they would meet, they would be so happy. They would understand each other's mission. So like that. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu are brothers. Yes. But brother from another mother.
And also it is said that Shashi Mata, she had, of course, 6 daughters before Gauranga Mahaprabhu. 7th child was Vishwarup. So Vishwarup is also said to be a partial expansion of Nityananda Prabhu himself. So in that sense, Nityananda Prabhu and Gauranga Mahaprabhu are also brothers in that sense.
But Nityananda Prabhu, this time he took the role of both elder brother and younger brother. Balaram as well as Lakshman. He was 12 years elder to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when he was going all over India, traveling, he did not speak a word of preaching because he wanted Gauranga Mahaprabhu to start the preaching movement. Then he would join. And when he joined the preaching movement, he was always subservient to Gauranga Mahaprabhu like a younger brother, serving him in that way. But actually, he was elder to him, and he was actually the god brother of his guru as well. But still, he would consider himself subservient in that sense. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji and Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Kalanidhi Prabhu, you've raised your hand.
Hare Krishna,
Hare.
Mataji and Prabhuji, thank you so much. At the very outset, I want to thank both of you from the bottom of my heart that you are giving us such a wonderful experience. It is really helping us to progress. It is helping us to chant better. It is helping us to relate with the Dhams in a much nicer way. And your presentation is so nice. Your choice of words and the way you sing the songs, the way you show the PPTs, it's extremely wonderful. I just want to ask you one doubt, that whenever we go to a Dham, the Dham is full of important places of pastimes. So many places, some of them are nearer, some of them are far away, and we have to spend a lot of time to reach them. But when we are in the Dham, we really want to see all these places. But at the same time, we want to spend more time in one place also. And we have a limitation of time. Then we come away and then we hear from someone who visited the other places, so nice and all. Then we really want to go. So within our limitations of time, what should be our attitude when we visit a Dham? Should we plan in advance? These are the places I would really like to see, etc. Or just allow things to happen as they do? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Very wonderful question. I would like to congratulate you on your sincerity for appreciating the dhams that you want to go through and be very and for this wonderful question. It shows how sincere you are. Actually, you asked whether we should plan in advance or we should just go with the flow in the dham. Both. I would say a bit of both. We must plan. Of course, we must plan where we want to go. And before we go to that particular place, we should read about it and understand what is the glories of that particular place that I'm going to. So today, if we are going to the house of Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, I must first read what is the glories of the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, what all things happened there, who is Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. If we have some preparation, just maybe half an hour study, 30 minutes study, 15 minutes study, 20 minutes, that will orient our mind into what we are actually going into. Then when we go there, we will explore things in the attitude that, because of the attitude that we have developed, we'll explore things will be revealed to us. I feel my personal experience is, if we don't prepare to understand where we are going and then go there, it seems like a bit of a tourist. It just seems like we are going to the Dham like a tourist. Oh, I'm going there. Oh, very nice, very nice. Oh, I'm going, very nice. I went there, I went there. And then we just come back and show photos to our friends and relatives. Look, I was there, and all of that. But really diving deep into the Dham, the mood of the Dham, get the real benefit of it, is if we prepare. And then when we go there, we're like, this is the place. This is the spot where Gauranga Mahaprabhu actually appeared. Oh, wow. Then our appreciation of the Dham increases multifold. And that causes an impression in our mind, which is eternal. Then that impression is eternal. Whether we go back home, back to God in this life, next life, whenever, it's there, an impression for life, for lifetimes. So we should prepare, but not just depend on the preparation. When we go there, we should pray to the Lord to please reveal some more things. So that's the part where we let it go. But we'll be able to let it go only if we have some preparation. Without taking much time, just this example came to my mind. Just like a kite, the kite is connected to the string, and because it's connected to the string, it can rise high and high and high. But if there is no string connected, the kite would flow with the wind, but then it'll eventually fall down. So if we just go with the flow without any preparation, it's like things will be revealed to us, but it's like the kite, some things will be revealed, but then we lose interest and enthusiasm and it'll drop. But if we have the planning and the preparation before we go to the Dham, before we go to that particular holy place, then it'll be like the kite, like the string, which is letting the kite flow. And when the winds of revelation comes, it'll help the kite flow more and more and more. So a bit of both is always better.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. I just want to say one more thing. Whenever your one parikrama comes to a close, we really feel like crying that we are leaving the Dham and we are going back home. It gives such a feeling. But then you are so nice, you immediately start another parikrama. So our mood changes and we come to a new place. I hope someday you will be also planning a South India parikrama, and then please let us know. We are based out of Chennai. We would definitely like to join you. There are so many wonderful places like Kanchipuram, Ahobalam, Tirumala, and further south places like Madurai, Rameshwaram, and all. Right. So if you plan a future series on South India, please do let us know. Let us be part of this wonderful service.
Yeah, this is a wonderful thing that you said. We would like to go for a South India Parikrama, the same route that Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu took for his South India Yatra. And we'll go to all the places that Gauranga Mahaprabhu went to, Kuvur district, and to Mangalgiri, to Simhachalam, to Ahobilam, to so many different places on the way. And that would be a wonderful track to follow. And then we can go to other places nearby as well. Yeah, that's a wonderful thought. Another thing, it is always good to go in the association of devotees rather than going alone. And even then, if we have preparation, it is good. And that way, when the revelations happen, we can share the revelations of other devotees and appreciate it even more. So it's always good to go in the association of devotees with preparation and wait for the Lord to reveal the glories also.
Thank you so much. Both of you are taking so much pains, but definitely the results are getting multiplied. So many people are getting the benefit. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Please
for your
bless us.
association in this yatras.
Please
Hare
bless us. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Ajji Kalasudha Mataji, Ajji Advaitchandra Prabhuji, Koti Dandvat Pranam to your sincere seva. Yes, I agree with that, Prabhuji, that please take us in Sridham, South India Yatra, Srirangam and Kanchipuram, Mahabalipuram and yes, Tirupati Balaji and Rameswaram. In 2007, we visit with Radhanath Maharaj. When you are taking in Dham, whether Sridham, Vrindavan Dham, Sridham, Mayapur Dham, we enter by your eyes and by your pure kathas, not qualified for anything, Prabhuji, but trust me, we enter in Dham with you. And so nicely explained about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and also about the Six Goswami and Prabhuji, how nicely you explain about the Sarnagati and Sadbhushan, Shishi Shautbhushan, Shishi Nityananda, Shishi Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhuji, not qualified to enter in Dham. We cannot enter in Dham by the air ticket or by bus or by train. For that, we have to prepare mood for increase our bhakti, reading and hearing. Then only we take the benefit of that Shridham Vrindavan Dham, and by the mercy of Bhakti Devi Sulsi Maharani only qualified to enter in Dham. But here, without any qualification, we enter in Dham by your mercy. Koti Koti Danvat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. So nicely sing the bhajan also every day. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you for your association and blessings.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother Flavor, for your comments.
Thank you also, Vinita, for your beautiful
Yes,
comment.
yes, Vinita Mataji.
Thank you so much, Vinita Mataji, for your beautiful comment. We are very grateful.
Any other questions or comments?
Can I, so Hare Krishna, sorry, Kajal again, just one more question.
Yes.
So can you explain why Vrindavan Dham is known as Chintamani, and also just one other thing, if you can explain Kalpa Vriksha as well. How does that all play in the Dham?
Chintamani is actually not just Vrindavan Dham. All the Dhams are said to be Chintamani. Chintamani means anything, it's touchstone basically. Chintamani, Srila Prabhupada literally translated it as touchstone. So the spiritual Dham, these holy Dhams are actually not mundane. They are made up of touchstone. Everything there is touchstone. So whatever desire we have, if it's said that if you have the touchstone in your hand, whatever you desire, it'll be fulfilled. So that is why the spiritual world is called as Chintamani, Prakara Shadmashu Kalpa Vriksha. So Kalpa Vriksha means desire trees. So whatever, like in Vrindavan Dham, in Jagannath Puri Dham, if, we are hungry, we can just, say, hey, we are a little hungry. And from somewhere or the other, you will get prasad. This is called Kalpa Vriksha. That Kalpa Vriksha and Chintamani, any desire is fulfilled instantaneously in the Dham. Therefore, we must be very careful what we are desiring in the Dham, that it can get instantly fulfilled. So, like there was this one old lady, she was walking in the Dham and she was carrying a huge, bundle of sticks in her head, on her head, and she was going. And then she said, hey, Kanha, very, very hot, please help me. And then Kanha immediately appeared and said, yes, Mai, what do you want? He said, please, help me with this big boja, this big burden I'm carrying on my head. Please help me take it down. Please help. So Krishna said, okay, I will take it down for you. So Krishna just came and took that boja down, and that Mai said, I'm now relieved. So we should not be like that. When we go to the Dham, we should not just say, oh Krishna, look, I have all this material burden which is sitting on my head. Please, please, take this burden away. So Krishna will come and he will just take that burden away. But we just don't want our burdens to go away. Rather, we want the burden of love of Krishna. We want the burden of love to service to our spiritual masters. So that is the burden that we want. So let's beg for that. And that desire will be instantaneously fulfilled in the Dham. That is why it's called Chintamani Dham Kalpa Vriksha, which means desire trees, the fulfilling of all the desire trees, of all our desires. These trees have the capacity to. So we hope that that,
Yes, yes, it did. And you could, is it possible you can bring Vrindavan Dham with you? I mean, obviously now it's absolutely impossible to get there, you know.
So the
So
Dham, it is said, His Grace Jananivas Prabhu, he told us that Dham is a place of consciousness, is a state of consciousness. It's not a geographical place. If we think of Sri Mayapur Dham, if we think of Sri Vrindavan Dham, if we think of Sri Jagannath Puri Dham, we are actually in the Dham. It is a state of consciousness. It is the way we make our own surroundings. If we make our surroundings like that of the Dham, then we are in the Dham. It is a state of consciousness. It's not really limited to physical place or a geographical location.
thank you.
Thank you, Kajal. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, I have one question, Mataji.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you,
Yes,
Santoshi.
Hare Krishna. You just mentioned this the state of consciousness, and the Dham is actually the status of the consciousness. So you've been taking us on this parikrama, so we are already there. Then the question arises. Then somebody may say, then, well, if it's my state of consciousness, I don't really physically need to go and visit those places. How would you answer that?
Well, if we are really always in that state of consciousness and we are able to maintain that, there's really no difference. Like for Srila Prabhupada, he was in New York, but he was walking in New York and he was remembering Vrindavan at every moment. He was saying, I'm in Vrindavan Dham. And devotees were like, well, we are in New York. If we are in that state, yes, everywhere a devotee takes. But if we are humble and we understand our true position, we may not be, at least we are not in that state. So we would want to go there. And when we are there, experience the Dham in such a way that we take those vibrations along with us. Because when we enter the Dham, there is the vibration of the Lord Himself. The source of everything is right there in Mayapur Dham, in Vrindavan Dham, in Jagannath Puri Dham. And those vibrations just engulf us as long as we want the vibrations to engulf us. And after that, when we come back, the more we go to the Dham, the more we can take it. But the problem with us is that when we come back, we get affected by so much material consciousness. And it actually I start feeling that from the airport to by the time you come to Europe or maybe some other part, of the Western world, suddenly you start distinctly seeing the consciousness change. That externally is and internally where we were, and like that. And if we are able to maintain that, that's very good. But sometimes our battery starts getting discharged. So to recharge, we should go back to the Dham, and then it'll be recharged. Our consciousness will be recharged with the Dham as the state of consciousness. Bring it back. Then again, it gets affected by so many material attacks and material energy. If it starts getting depleted, go back. But for a pure devotee, it doesn't deplete. He actually, wherever he goes, he makes it a Dham.
Thank you so much.
That's what Srila Prabhupada did. So if
Thank
we
you
are
so
at
much.
that state, yes, that is definitely, that is true. We don't need to go to the Dham. But the question that we really need to ask ourselves very honestly, am I in that state of consciousness?
Thank you so much. And now I know. Now I know why we visit there. I have one follow-up question. It's said that usually when you go to Vrindavan, you shouldn't spend more than 3 days, and especially as somebody very fallen like me, that you start committing offenses. How is the rule, or how is the recommendation for Jagannath Puri and Mayapur? I know Mayapur Lord Chaitanya is so merciful. So I don't think, I mean, you can stay there for a month. Correct me if I'm wrong. And what about Jagannath Puri?
Jagannath Puri, there is no such, I mean, of course, Srila Prabhupada said this, there's no really such, fixed number of days that Srila Prabhupada has given for staying in Jagannath Puri Dham. But, as long as we are, like there are devotees who do the 30-day parikrama in the Dham, in Vrindavan Dham. So how they are able to do that? How, sometimes devotees stay even for a week in the Dham, in Vrindavan Dham. So the main thing is that Srila Prabhupada said that, yes, in the initial stages, we must be careful. Don't go more than 3 days, because after 3 days, we start looking at the externals. Oh, look this. Oh, look this deficiency. Oh, look that deficiency. If we can control ourselves and train our mind to look and be in the consciousness of actually accepting the mercy of the Dham, then you can stay there as long as you want. So that is how we should understand this. And when we are in the proper association, who can, by whose mercy we can actually, stay properly in the Dham, then it's perfectly fine. Hope that answers your question, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Santoshi Kumari Mataji, we thank you so much for your comment. Madhira Ma, thank you so much for your comment. We're very
Singha
grateful.
Gaurahari Prabhu, thank you. Krishna Sharanam Prabhu, thank you for your comments. Vinita Mataji and Saroj Mukhi Mataji.
Thank you all for your comments. Any more questions?
If not, we can end here. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. Vanta kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavesya
Go namo nama.
antakoti vaishnava
Prabhuji, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Vinay Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.